Hi, my name is Rachel Morgan. And up until 6 months ago, I was absolutely certain I was living a perfect life. Picture this, a beautiful house in Denver, Colorado, with a well-maintained garden and white picket fence. A hard-working husband, Thomas, who had been a bank manager for 15 years. A beautiful 6-year-old son, Ethan, with blue eyes just like his father's. I worked as a nurse at the city hospital, taking care of people, saving lives. And I thought I had everything under control. Every morning, I woke up grateful. Grateful for the family we had built. Grateful for 10 years of marriage that seemed solid as a rock. Grateful for finding the right man. The one who made me laugh. Who hugged me when I came home tired from the hospital. Who played superhero with our son in the backyard. Thomas had always been, how can I put it, a businessman. Serious, focused, always with his head in his work. I admired that about him. While other women complained about lazy husbands, I felt lucky. My husband was ambitious, dedicated, a provider, but nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what I was about to discover. Because sometimes, what you consider your greatest blessing can be your greatest curse. Welcome to Revenge Cat. We reveal gripping stories of broken trust, family secrets, and shocking twists. If you crave powerful narratives, intense emotions, and the sweet taste of justice, this is your place. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing. It all started with small things. Details that, when isolated, meant nothing. But when you put the pieces together, well, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. First came the phone calls. Thomas had always received many work calls, I knew that. But lately, he started leaving the room to answer them, whispering on the phone. When I asked who it was, he'd say, "Just work, honey. You know how it is." And I believed him. Why wouldn't I? Then came the trips. Thomas had always traveled for conferences, meetings, training, but now they were more frequent. Entire weekends away. "It's the price of success," he'd say, kissing my forehead. "I'm doing this for us, Rachel, for our family." But it was when I found the receipts that something inside me awakened. It was a Thursday. I was doing his laundry, and in the pocket of his dress shirt I found a crumpled paper. A receipt from an expensive Italian restaurant on the other side of town. Dated Tuesday. Exactly the day Thomas told me he'd be working late at the office, reviewing contracts. My heart raced, but I took a deep breath. Maybe it was a business lunch. Maybe he forgot to mention it. Except the receipt clearly stated, "Table 4 for people." For people. Thomas never mentioned dining with clients that Tuesday. And why for people? Why didn't he tell me? I started paying closer attention. And the more I watched, the more the pieces didn't fit. The moment that changed everything happened 3 weeks later, during a birthday party at Thomas's office. I rarely went to these events. I worked rotating shifts at the hospital. But that Friday, I managed to switch my shift with a colleague. The party was at an elegant restaurant. I wore my favorite blue dress, the one Thomas always said made me look beautiful. I arrived, excited, expecting a pleasant evening with his colleagues. And it was there, talking to Jennifer, the secretary from the finance department, that my life crumbled. Jennifer was showing me pictures on her phone, photos from a weekend barbecue that the bank staff had organized. "It was so much fun, Rachel. Such a shame you couldn't make it." I smiled, scrolling through the photos distractedly. And then my world stopped. On the phone screen, there was my husband, Thomas, smiling, hugging a blonde woman I had never seen in my life. Next to them, 2 small children, a boy about 8 years old and a girl around 4. And the child was sitting on his lap. The boy was hugging him around the waist, as if they were father and children. "Jennifer," I managed to whisper, my voice trembling. Who are those people with Thomas?" Jennifer looked at the photo and laughed. Oh, that's his work family. Thomas always brings Lisa and the kids to our barbecues. What cute children, right? Little David looks just like his dad. His work family. The world started spinning. I felt like someone had sucked all the air from my lungs. Sorry, I mumbled, handing back the phone. I need to go to the bathroom. I ran to the bathroom and locked the door. My hands were shaking uncontrollably. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it echoing off the tiles. Lisa, David, a family I didn't know. A family that looked very, very real. That night, I pretended everything was fine. I smiled for the rest of the party. I talked about the weather, about work, about the summer vacation we were planning. But inside, a storm had begun. Thomas drove home as always. He talked about work, about colleagues, about how good the food was. I responded on autopilot, my mind completely focused on the photo I had seen. When we got home, Thomas went to shower. And that's when I started my investigation. I grabbed his laptop, something I had never done before, and tried to access it. Of course, it was password protected. But I knew Thomas. I tried some combinations. Our wedding date, Ethan's name, his birthday, nothing. Then I tried Lisa, followed by random numbers. Lisa, 2018. The screen opened. My stomach churned. He had a password with her name. I started searching through files, emails, browser history. At first, everything seemed normal. Work emails, spreadsheets, news sites. But then I found a hidden folder. Personal documents too. Inside, there were photos. Hundreds of photos. Thomas with the blonde woman. Lisa. Thomas holding a baby that clearly wasn't Ethan. Thomas teaching a child to ride a bike in a park I didn't recognize. Thomas at a barbecue, wearing an apron that said "World's Best Dad," while two children hugged him, and the dates. My God, the dates. Some photos were from years ago. Others were recent. One was from last week, when Thomas told me he was at a conference in Colorado Springs, but the one that shocked me most was the last in the folder. A selfie of Thomas with Lisa and the two children, all smiling, in front of a house I had never seen. And in the background of the photo, a sign on the door with clearly visible address numbers. 1847 Maple Street. I wrote down the address, closed the laptop, and ran to the bathroom. I threw up everything I had eaten at the party. Thomas was raising another family. For years, and I had no idea. The following Saturday, Thomas announced he needed to leave early for a special meeting that had come up last minute. Sorry, honey, it's about an important merger. Could take all day. I smiled and said it was no problem. That Ethan and I would take advantage to go to the park. But as soon as he left, I dropped Ethan off with my sister, Amy, and followed my husband. I drove a few streets behind him, my heart beating like a war drum. Thomas took the road that led to the Lakewood neighborhood, exactly in the direction of the address I had seen in the photo. When he stopped in front of the house at 1847 Maple Street, everything was confirmed. It was a beautiful house. Not as big as ours, but cozy. It had a yard with toys scattered around. A slide, a dollhouse, small bicycles. Thomas got out of the car, grabbed bags from the back seat, and walked to the door as if it were his own house. The door opened before he even knocked, and there she was. Lisa, the woman from the photos. Blonde hair, wide smile, wearing a bathrobe. She hugged him like a wife hugs her husband when he comes home. Two children came running. "Daddy, Daddy," they shouted, jumping around him. Thomas picked them up, spinning with them, laughing, that laugh I thought was only mine and Ethan's. I sat there, inside my car, 2 blocks away, watching my husband live a completely different life. A life where he wasn't just Thomas, the bank manager married to Rachel. He was Thomas, Lisa's partner. David and little Emma's father. And by the way they interacted, by how natural everything was. This wasn't something new. This had been going on for a very, very long time. In the following days, I acted like an award-winning actress. I smiled when Thomas came home that Saturday, saying the meeting had been productive. I made his favorite dinner. I watched TV snuggled against his arm. I made love to him as if nothing had changed. But inside, a new Rachel was being born. A Rachel who wasn't going to accept this quietly. I started planning. First, I needed more information. So, in the following weeks, whenever Thomas left for his meetings and trips, I investigated. I discovered that Lisa worked as a freelance graphic designer, that she thought she was in a serious relationship with Thomas. On her social media, which wasn't private, she posted subtle photos of him, referring to him as my love. That the children really called him Dad. I also discovered that Thomas had been supporting two houses, two families, two completely separate lives for at least 5 years. 5 years. 5 years, when I thought we were a happy family, while he lived a double lie. What hurt me most wasn't even the physical betrayal. It was the emotional betrayal. It was knowing that every time he hugged me and said I love you, he said the same thing to her. That every time he played with Ethan, he did the same thing with David and Emma. That I wasn't special. That our family wasn't special. We were just ... one of his options. But Thomas didn't know I had found out. And that gave me an advantage. It was time to use that advantage. First, I protected our son. I talked to Amy, my sister, and explained the situation. She was shocked, outraged, but supported me completely. We agreed that when the time came, Ethan would stay with her for a few days. Second, I protected our finances. Or rather, my finances. For years, I had contributed to our joint account, but I discovered that Thomas also had separate accounts, probably to support his double life. So I started transferring my money to an account I opened only in my name. Third, I documented everything. Photos, bank statements, proof that he was spending our money on another family. Everything properly organized in folders, with dates and evidence. And fourth, well, the fourth step was the most delicate. I needed to have a conversation with Lisa. It took me 2 weeks to gather courage. But finally, on a Thursday when Thomas said he'd be traveling for work, but I knew he'd be with her, I decided to act. I found out where Lisa worked. A small design studio downtown. I waited for her to leave for lunch and approached her on the sidewalk. Lisa, I said, my voice firmer than I expected. She turned, smiling politely. Yes, my name is Rachel. Rachel Morgan. I'm Thomas's wife. Her smile disappeared instantly. Her face turned pale. Sorry, I think you're confused. Thomas isn't married. I took out a photo of our wedding from my pocket. Thomas and me, 10 years ago. Him in a tuxedo, me in a white dress, exchanging rings. Lisa looked at the photo, then at me, then at the photo again. Her hands started trembling. No, it can't be. He told me he was divorced, that his ex-wife had moved to another state with the child. The child is mine. Ethan, he's 6 years old. Thomas is his biological father. Lisa leaned against the building wall, as if she might faint. How long have you two been together? I asked, with a calm I didn't even believe was possible. 5 5 years, she whispered. David and Emma. They think Thomas is their father. He said he wanted to adopt them officially. I felt a pang of pain. Her children were innocent in all this. Lisa, I said, putting my hand on her shoulder. I didn't come here to fight with you. I came so you'd know the truth. Thomas has been lying to both of us for years. She started crying. I really thought he loved me. That we were a real family. I thought so too. We spent an hour talking. Lisa told me how she had met Thomas, how he had won over not only her, but the children too. How he always had excuses for not introducing her to his family, for not making the relationship official, but always with explanations that made sense at the time. In the end, Lisa was devastated, but determined. I'm going to break up with him today. No, I said. Not yet. I have a better plan. In the following 2 weeks, Lisa and I worked together. She continued acting normally with Thomas, but documenting everything. Conversations, promises, lies. I did the same. Thomas had no idea his double life was about to implode. The last straw was when he announced he'd need to travel for almost a week to close an important deal in Phoenix. It was the most elaborate lie yet, because I knew he planned to spend that week with Lisa and the children. She had told me he'd promised to take them to a resort in the mountains. That's great, honey, I said, kissing his cheek. You deserve this break. Thomas left on a Monday morning, waving cheerfully at me and Ethan. Take care of Mommy, he told our son. Daddy will be back soon. As soon as he left, I executed the final phase of the plan. First, Ethan went to Amy's house. I explained to my son that Mommy needed to resolve some adult things, and that he'd spend some fun days with his aunt. He was excited. He loved staying with Amy. Second, I called a moving company. In 2 days, they came and took everything that was important to me. My favorite furniture, clothes, personal objects, documents, photos, our real ones, not those from his secret life. Third, I emptied our joint accounts. After all, half of that money was mine by right, and I had documentation to prove he was using our resources to support another family. And finally, I left a small box on the dining room table. Inside the box, all the photos I found from his secret life. Photos with Lisa, with the children, at barbecues, outings, intimate moments, along with copies of all receipts, bank statements, proof of expenses he had hidden. On top of the box, a note. Thomas, I discovered your second family. Lisa also found out about me. Congratulations. Now you can live your double life openly, because neither one nor the other wants anything to do with you anymore. Take Ethan next weekend to talk about how to explain to him why Mommy and Daddy don't live together anymore. Don't mention Lisa or the other children. That conversation is for when he's older. The lawyer will contact you about the divorce. Good luck supporting 2 families without my help. Rachel. Thomas returned from his supposed business trip on a Friday afternoon. I wasn't there to see it, but Amy, who was keeping an eye on the house, told me everything. He arrived, smiling, probably still with his head in the mountains with Lisa and the children. He carried a small suitcase and gifts. A teddy bear for me. How ironic. And a toy car for Ethan. When he opened the door and saw the semi-empty house, his first reaction was confusion. Rachel, Ethan, he shouted. Maybe he thought we'd been robbed. But when he found the little box on the table, Amy said she heard a scream that chilled the blood. A scream from someone who had just seen his entire life crumble. He called me 17 times that night. Left desperate messages. Rachel, please, let me explain. It's not what you think. I can explain everything. Please, don't do this. Think about Ethan. Think about our family. Our family. The irony was almost comical. Lisa also called me the same day. She had broken up with him the day before, as we had agreed. She told him she knew about me, about Ethan, about the whole lie. Thomas had begged, cried, promised he would leave the other woman, me, to stay only with her. But Lisa wasn't stupid. If he lied to you for 10 years, why would I believe he wouldn't lie to me too, was what she said. Thomas was alone. Without me, without her, without any of the families he had built with lies. The following months were difficult, I won't lie. Divorce is never easy, especially when there's a child involved. Thomas tried everything. Cried, begged, promised to change, tried to convince me that Lisa meant nothing. But I didn't go back. Ethan was confused at first, of course, but children are more resilient than we think. I explained to him, in an age-appropriate way, that sometimes adults make big mistakes, and that Daddy and Mommy couldn't live together anymore. That it wasn't his fault, that we would continue being a family, just different. Thomas has regular visitation rights. I didn't take that away from him. Despite everything, he's Ethan's father. But I established strict rules. No talking about Lisa or the other children until Ethan is older. No trying to convince me to get back together. No missing commitments. Lisa and I kept in touch for a few months. She was going through the same process I was. Rebuilding her life, explaining to the children, dealing with the lies. But she was strong too. She moved to another state with David and Emma, started a new life. As for me, well, I discovered I was stronger than I imagined. I got a promotion at the hospital. Ethan and I moved to a smaller but cozy apartment, just ours. I started therapy. Not because I was destroyed, but because I wanted to understand how I didn't see the signs for so long. I wanted to make sure I'd never let someone deceive me like that again. You know what the hardest part of all this was? It wasn't the betrayal itself. It was realizing I had signs right in front of me for years and chose to ignore them. The whispered phone calls, the frequent trips, the strange receipts, the emotional distance I attributed to work stress. The moments when he seemed to be in another world, thoughtful, as if he were divided between two realities, because that's exactly what it was. He was divided between two realities. Friends and family had made comments. My mother always said Thomas was too charming for his own good. Amy sometimes joked that he was too good to be true. Even hospital colleagues made jokes about husbands who traveled a lot. But I believed in him. I believed in us. I believed our love was real, unique, special, and maybe it was real for me. But for Thomas, we were just one of his truths. Today, 2 years later, I can say I found something I didn't know I had lost. Myself. The Rachel, who was married to Thomas, was always trying to be the perfect wife. Always understanding about his schedule, always supportive of his professional dreams, always putting family first. Even when family meant erasing myself. The Rachel now is different. She continues being caring, continues taking care of people. It's my nature. But now I also take care of myself. I have boundaries. I have my own dreams. I have self-love. Ethan is fine. He's 7 now, growing up strong and smart. Sometimes he asks about why Daddy and Mommy don't live together anymore, and I answer with honesty appropriate for his age. He knows it was adults' choice, not his fault. Thomas, Well, I heard through mutual acquaintances that he tried to get back together with Lisa a few months after the divorce. But she had moved on. I heard he's dating someone else now. I sincerely hope that this time he's honest. As for me, I'm still learning to trust again. I've gone on some dates, met interesting people. But now I know what questions to ask. I know what signs to watch for. I know that true love doesn't require you to close your eyes to suspicious behavior. If you made it this far in my story, you're probably going through something similar. Or you know someone who is. Or you simply wanted to understand how a situation like this can happen. And I want to tell you something. Don't blame yourself for believing. Don't blame yourself for trusting. Don't blame yourself for loving sincerely. People who live double lives are experts at lying. They know exactly what to say, how to act, when to appear and when to disappear. They count on our tendency to give the benefit of the doubt, to believe the best in people we love. But I also learned that our intuition rarely lies. That strange feeling in your stomach when something doesn't add up. That small voice in your head saying something is wrong. Those moments when you find yourself looking at your partner and thinking, do I really know this person? Listen to that voice. Not necessarily to act impulsively, but to investigate. To ask the questions you need to ask. To trust your instincts. And if you discover you're being deceived, remember that you're stronger than you imagine. That you deserve true love, complete, without divisions. That a life built on lies isn't a life worth living. Thomas taught me, involuntarily, one of the most important lessons of my life. Sometimes, losing someone you love is actually finding someone you lost along the way. Yourself. I thought my world had ended when I discovered my husband's second family. But actually, my world was just beginning. Because sometimes, the only way to find yourself is by losing someone who was never really yours. And now, for the first time in years, I am completely mine. And that is priceless. If this story touched you in some way, if you identified with any point, or if you simply want to share your own experience, leave it in the comments. Sometimes, knowing we're not alone is all we need to find strength to move forward. And remember, you deserve a love that doesn't need to be shared with anyone. You deserve a truth that doesn't need to be hidden. You deserve to be the only one, not one of the options. Big hug, Rachel. For more exciting videos, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and share. If you want powerful narratives, strong emotions, and the sweet taste of justice, this is your place.